Shwmai a croeso cynnes, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm James Owen, a Welsh filmmaker and storyteller, and I'm passionate about sharing stories. This podcast is all about business owners sharing their journey, and we'll be speaking with directors, entrepreneurs and creatives from all across Wales to learn from their experiences. We believe everyone has a story to tell. What's your story? Shwmai a croeso cynnes to the next episode of What's Your Story. And I've got a really exciting guest here today, somebody who I've come to know over these last few years in the world of business. And today, all the way from Swansea, we've got a farmer's girl, Mel Evans, who is a customer experience expert. Mel, it's fantastic to have you come down to Llanelli. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, James. It's a delight to be here.
I can tell you're a farmer's girl because you're dressed like a farmer's girl today in your farmer tweed
in my
jacket.
Yes.
In your check. Mel, really appreciate you coming on. And for those who are watching and listening, could you just give me a summary into the world of Mel Evans? What is it that you do in your sort of day-to-day running of your business?
Okay, thank you, James. Well, as you said, I'm a customer experience expert, and people have different views of that as to what it means. You know, some people think it's about customer service. Some people think it's about experience, mystery shopping. But it's a bit of everything in truth. So what I do is I help other businesses understand what it feels like to be a customer in their world. And once we understand that, we can help them fix some of the stuff they need to fix. So we make it a better experience, and we help them grow their business through better customer experience.
I guess it's probably hard for businesses to put their shoes, put themselves in the shoes of their customers.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and that is very much my mantra. I am the voice of the customer. That's what I call myself.
Customer, of course.
So yeah, it's about helping you see your world through the customer's eyes. Because when you're in your business, you've only got one dimension of your business. But seeing it from the other side, understanding how it feels to be a customer, because customer experience is actually about feelings. It's about emotions. It's about how you make me feel when I engage with your product, your brand, your people. It's much more than just service. So that's what I do.
It's much more than mystery shopping. It's a big part of what you do.
It's one tool in the toolkit, is what I would say. Yeah, mystery shopping is one tool in the toolkit. But that only measures how your team engage. You know, whether that's with an initial inquiry, how they convert inquiries into sales, how they deal with complaints, how they deal with inquiries, how they serve the customer. So mystery shopping measures certain things, but it's not the solution to everything. It's purely a metric.
Good. So you got a couple of tools in your toolbox, Mel. Did you think that growing up on a farm in Swansea, you'd one day be running your own customer experience business?
Not at all. In fact, you know, I guess like many, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was young. You know, yes, I was brought up on a farm, had a great childhood, loved being outdoors, loved being busy. That was part of the culture. You know, you're not 9 to 5 on a farm. It's 24/7. And I guess that's instilled in me a great work ethic. That's what that childhood brought for me, great work ethic. So did I ever imagine doing what I'm doing today? Not at all. I had no idea what I wanted to do.
So was your first job in industry then, you know, coming out of school, maybe having, you didn't have the sort of maybe interest in going away to university like some people, you're an outdoorsy person. What was your first ever job?
Right. Well, when I left school, I was like, what am I going to do? Yes, you know, I could have mulled about on the farm, but that wasn't really going to be a career in truth. So I knew I wanted to be outdoors. I knew I wanted to be active. I didn't see myself in an office environment. So by chance, before I left school, I got a weekend job in a local garden centre, completely out of the blue. Wasn't a strategic move in any way, shape or form. And that led to other things. I mean, whilst working there, they decided that, you know, they would fund me going to local college to learn about horticulture and botany. And so that was great. That was new skills, new learnings. I wasn't particularly academic, didn't float my boat, but that particular thing did. So it's like, yeah, I'm interested. Let's know a bit more. And then by chance moved on to the largest garden centre retailer in the UK.
Wow.
Within 3 years. So landed myself a job with them and had a career that way.
So the garden industry, what would you call it? What's the industry?
It's a garden centre industry. It's a retail industry. It's more than just plants in the UK. It's more of a leisure retailer now. It's very much around gift and Christmas and cafes and restaurants and furniture and indoor decor. Plants is actually a small part of the garden centre industry now. Yes, there is still some hardcore gardeners out there, and plants will always be needed from a retail point of view. They're big revenue stream, but actually the garden centre industry is a leisure industry now.
Okay, so the garden industry has evolved over these years, which a large part of your working life has been in that industry.
Yeah.
You made a bit of a scene going up the ladder. You were the youngest garden centre manager at a time when you were working up the ranks. What was it like for you transitioning from the day-to-day working in the garden centre as a weekend job to then working up the ladder in management?
That was a big. I never overthought it, if I'm honest. I wasn't one of these people that had a plan or a career path. People would say to me, "What do you want to do?" I don't know. Let's see where it leads me. And I've always been that way. But I've always had this culture of doing my best at whatever I did. But you're right. Moving from being what you'd call back in the day a general assistant through to being management is big step, especially at 21, when quite frankly I knew nothing about managing people when I look back. But at the time I went, yeah, give me the keys, I'll give it a go, because that was my mantra to everything. I'll give it a go, I'll do my best. So I learned a heck of a lot in those early days. I learned about people and respect, and respect doesn't come with a badge or a title. Respect comes by how you behave around other people. And when you're young and you're a manager, you have to learn those things. So, I had people that I was managing that were in their 40s and 50s, and I was 21, coming along as the manager. That took a lot of getting over. That took a lot of understanding to get people on side and to show them I was there to help and support, not just, give orders and tell them what to do, which is what their perception was. So, yeah, great journey, great career, great learning. I loved it.
Yeah, and I do a bit of travelling in my industry, going and supporting businesses. Might be going to Cardiff one day, or maybe going to London the other day. I do a bit of driving, but I've gotten to learn that you did a lot more driving than me. You used to do how many miles on average a year?
Used to average around 50,000 miles a year. I moved on from being garden centre manager to working in the head office function. I was in buying for a while. I was in operations for a while. I was a regional manager, operations director, all of those things. And what that did was mean I was away from home most of the week. I'd pack my bags on a Monday morning and go and live in various hotels around the UK for 3 or 4 nights a week. So much so that I'd check in, they'd know my name, and, I knew the staff in each of these locations. They'd know what I want for breakfast, what I'd have for dinner. Wow. It was a lifestyle. It wasn't just a job. And for the most part, I loved it.
Quite a sacrifice, though, because like you said there, it's a lifestyle, not a job.
Yeah.
You would have had to sacrifice a lot to actually put the hard work in that sort of industry, I bet, because you're traveling, you're meeting as a buyer, you're meeting lots of different suppliers and customers, whining and dining, I'm sure.
Yeah, all of that stuff. But the novelty wears off really quickly, let me tell you. Eating in restaurants on your own is quite a lonely place to be after a while. And what you do is you fill the gap with work. So you end up working 18 hours a day. So look, I'm not saying this because I want people to feel sorry for me. I loved it most of the time. It was a very male-orientated industry when I first joined it. For instance, when I was a regional manager, there were 15 regional managers around the UK. I was the only female. So, there was a little bit
of... This would have been a fair few years ago, which it probably would have been,
It would have been in the 80s, maybe early 90s. So
even then, it would have been even more important for you as a woman experiencing, a male-dominated industry? Things have gotten a lot better these days, haven't they? There's still a lot more work to be done,
absolutely.
but it would have been a tough thing.
Yeah, although that said, I have to say, I had at that point as a regional manager, I had 14 peers that were men. I never once had an issue with any of them. They all treated me equally with respect. So I can't say just because it was a male-orientated industry that I had a hard time as a result of it. I didn't. I think I put more pressure on myself to make sure that I did the best I could, but also tried to do better than my male counterparts. But that was more about me than them.
Yeah.
That was more about my drive of I didn't want to be seen as somebody that wasn't up to the mark or couldn't achieve. So I would go that extra mile.
That's good. And did you have a fair share of hiring and building teams over that period?
Yeah, a big part of what I did in senior management was about recruiting, hiring, firing. We had many restructures as a business. We had lots of expansion going on all of the time. I headed up an acquisition and integration team for 3 or 4 years because we were buying out other businesses. And I would be the one they plant into those new businesses to integrate them across. That was all about people usually because, a lot of the time those businesses were bought out and the people didn't want to come and work for us. So there was a lot of people work to be done. So that was another great learning and great experience as well.
There's quite a lot of responsibility there. Like acquisitions is another world, and I guess probably you have to go into these new businesses the parent group had acquired, and almost like coming in with the organisation you represent, their agenda, and hold on now, I've worked here for 20 years.
They would never welcome me with open arms, put it that way. There'd be a big padlock on the door. It's like, okay, I need the key. Look, it was about winning over those that you knew were going to come on the journey with you. It was about understanding those that didn't, and that journey wasn't going to be for everybody. It wasn't about forcing people into a box. It was about understanding their needs and their wants and their fears. A lot of the time people feared stuff because they just didn't understand it. Yeah. So if you could break down those fears, help them understand it, and give them a little bit of a leg up, you could usually get most people along the journey you needed them to go on.
Well, that's good because, you would know relationships are really important when it comes to customer experience, right? So in some of those examples you've shared, you have to win people over.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do we, as business owners, how do we win over people?
Do you mean customers?
Customers. Let's talk about customers.
Customers. Then. Well, in the world of customer experiences, I think I touched on it at the start. It's about how you make me feel. If when I engage with your business, I feel that you want to listen, that you understand my needs, that you care about me as a customer, the truth is you're going to win me over. If I feel I'm just a process and you don't care and you're not interested in my challenge or my worries or my concern, then I might just go, you know what, I can take my money anywhere. I don't feel loyal to you. So it is about people. Actually, it's no different now for me as it was back then in retail. It's still about people. It's still about how can I help these businesses connect with their customers on a level that will encourage loyalty, because that's what the business needs and wants, and that's what the customer needs and wants. So try and get the two things to align.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm guessing that, you were preparing yourself for the journey to come, which was to set up your own business. But it didn't happen overnight. What was the sort of pivot point for you? The tipping point where you thought, do you know what? I can't do employment anymore. I want to go and run my own business. What was the sort of tipping point for you where you decided to quit your job?
Well, I dabbled in it once. Part way through my 30-year career, I had this bit of a brain fit and went, I know, I'm going to go out and run my own business. I'm going to set up a coffee shop.
How did that do?
Great. I loved it. I loved setting it up. I loved doing all the do. And then I got completely bored really quickly.
Well, it sounds really fun running a coffee shop.
Well, it was fun setting it up.
Yeah.
But after that, I'm like, well, this is boring. I need something else. So out of the blue, somebody else in the organisation I used to work for rang me up and said, Mel, are you done with that idea now? Will you come back and work for us? I've got a job for you. And I went, yeah, that's great. We'll do that. So anyway, quite a way further down the track. Look, retail had changed. It was a great learning, a great place to be back in the 80s, the 90s, and even the the early 2000s. It's a very different world now. And towards the end of my career, I could see that was happening.
Is this talking about the changing into like the
Yeah.
leisure type of?
Yeah, well, not so much that. I actually quite enjoyed that because the business needed that to be an all year round business. Plants is very spring orientated and you needed all that other stuff, which was great. But the group I worked for was expanding. It was the biggest in the UK, and we were being bought out by financial companies and private equity and all of that stuff, and it was just getting harder and harder and harder to make retail work. And then you had the onset of the internet, which was obviously squeezing as well. And I could just see a direction the business was going in, and went, you know what, given this is a lifestyle, not a career or just a job, I need to think long and hard about this next bit. And I just decided, one day I was asked to go in and look at the next lot of cuts for the business. And I went, actually, maybe I need to be on that list and it's time for me to go. Because I knew I'd had my time. It was time for me to do something else. At that point, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So
You volunteered yourself.
Yeah, I moved on and found myself in no man's land for about 3 months because I was on gardening leave, ironically.
From a garden centre.
Yeah, I was on gardening leave from the garden centre industry, which is a bit weird. So yeah, I had 3 months to think about it, to think about my future and what I wanted to do. And I kept coming back to, I've had a great career. I've loved what I've done. But I actually think I want to work for myself now. I want to give that a go. And it took me a little bit of a time to work out what that looked like because,
Must have been a shock to the system because how long had you worked in retail, up until
35
that point?
years.
That's a long career, isn't it?
Yeah, it was great. But I learned a lot. I worked hard. But I sort of knew I needed to do something else. But that didn't make it easy. I walked away from something that I had loved. And whilst it was my want to do something else, and I didn't want to go back into retail, I knew that for sure. So it was just about working out what I needed to do. And when that first week where I was technically unemployed but stroke on gardening leave, I sort of woke up in the morning and went, what do I do now? What do people do when they don't go to work?
Where's my breakfast?
I couldn't get my head around it. I'm like, I've always worked from the time I was 16. So this was the first time in my life I was like, right, I don't know what to do with myself. What do I do? So you paint the house, you do the garden, you paint the house, you do the garden, and then you get to a point where you're like, right, I've really got to go and do something now. So yeah, and by chance, a recruiter that I used to work with in my professional life rang me up one day and he said, look, I know, you've not quite worked out what you want to do. My advice is don't do anything until you do. But there is somebody I'd like you to talk to. And that's when I got to meet the guy who owns the head franchise of the business I run now. And my intention was never to buy a franchise. I'd said that point blank. Even when I met him, I went, I'm not buying a franchise. That's not what I want to do. Anyway, I got to know the business a bit more and how he was building it and what was involved, the culture. And I could really see that everything I'd done for the previous 30 years could feed into what I do now. And for me, it was like, I don't really want to just forget what I've done. I can't forget what I've done. I've learned so much, but I'd really like to use it to my advantage and use it to continue to help other businesses, basically. So when I unraveled the whole business model, business plan, could see how I could still be running my own business, but under an umbrella and a structure. It was a good fit for me, but it took me a little while to work out that and to see actually, is that what I want to do? And yeah, here I am today, 8 years later.
8 years.
Helping businesses understand their customers.
Wow, 8 years. 8 years you've been running
8 years in Insight 6, yeah.
Insight 6, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you would have learned a lot of lessons over these 8 years.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is a lot of the skills that you've learned and picked up, communication, people management, customer experience, those things you would have picked up in your time in retail, a lot of them, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I always say I couldn't do what I do today had I not done that bit in my career, because that bit taught me so much.
So you had quite a head start starting your business then.
Well, yeah, you could look at it that
Yeah.
way. Absolutely. There's lots of other things you have to learn, as you know, running your business. There's lots of other stuff when you're self-employed, around accounts and paperwork and legislation, depending on what industry you're in, and cash flow and all that stuff. You don't get taught none of that. Playing with somebody else's money when you're employed, they're just numbers on a sheet.
Yeah.
When it's your money and you've got to pay the mortgage, it's a very different approach to things. So you have to think about lots of things, as you know, being self-employed yourself.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Insight 6 then. Customer experience. We're going to learn and understand a little bit about more that customer experience is about the experience. It's what feeling do you get? And yeah, I'm starting to think about maybe my sort of purchasing habits a little bit differently now. Now we're having this conversation.
Yes.
What are maybe some of the challenges that you help businesses across the region? What are some of the common challenges small businesses have when they want to improve their customer experience?
Well, I think it's similar for all businesses. Yes, new businesses have slightly different challenges in that they, new businesses are very focused on setting the business up and doing the do. You went into filmmaking because you have a passion for it. So
I do.
so all you were thinking about was your equipment, your training, how do you get the job done? Nobody ever talked to you about customer experience, I guess.
No, I don't
Other than
think
me
so.
when you met me.
Yes, I learned a lot from you, Mel.
So therein lies a great example, and you're not unique. It's the same for everybody or most people. So for new startups, it's very much about understanding what I call their shop window. We're not in a retail environment or a high street, so there is no physical shop window, but the physical shop window is social proof, websites, review platforms, and all of those things depend on feedback. You need testimonials, you need reviews online, you need to understand how your customers are feeling, because the nirvana is, for every business, you spend less on marketing, more on customers, and the customers are telling the world how great you are.
Yeah.
You telling me how great you are is nowhere near as powerful as your customers telling me how great you are.
That is very true. I mean, a lot of what I do is customer testimonials.
Yeah.
So producing customer testimonial videos for some of my customers then. I'm filming my customers, talking about their customers. There's a lot of customers. But yeah, you're right. You're spot on, because I could tell you so many things about why you may want a professional video. If you're engaging with me as a supplier,
Yeah.
go and speak to this person.
Yeah.
If they can say if they can say what we can do for you,
Yes.
in a concise way, that is trustworthy and has validation, that's going to win you over far more than me just saying how good I am. Because if you're a sales rep or a business development manager, you are going to try and sell that product and service, aren't you? It's your job to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if a customer of that business you're trying to engage shares in a way that's really authentic, then that is powerful, isn't it?
Far more powerful, because the truth is, look, we're all meant to be passionate about what we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. Yeah. So we're all going to say, we can fix your problems for you.
Absolutely. I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not sure how. I will get it done. So the point is, we all have a passion, but actually, how does that look and feel to those who are looking for our services or our products? The truth is, we all do the same things. We're creatures of habit. We'll have a look online if we're searching for somebody. If we get a referral, we go, oh, right, so who is James? What is this business he does? Let's have a little look online. Have you got a Facebook page? Have you got testimonials? Is there video on there? What does your website look like? So before I even think about engaging with you as a customer, I'll do my own research. And you know what? You could have 100 people doing that research today, and you might only get one to talk to you. So the power of that social proof, the power of whatever your shop window looks like, you don't need to be standing in the shop window. You just need a shop window that tells the right story, which is, I guess, where you help businesses, because you do the videos that promote the businesses, which help present them to the potential customers.
Absolutely.
So there's a bit of a link there in the whole
Massive
thing.
link, and I think, where we sort of position ourselves is to help support those businesses who know their own story, but they don't know how to tell it, and
Yeah.
that's where we sort of come
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
and help. Testimonials, we've touched on that a lot. I think it's really important as part of social proof in trying to validate our businesses and whatever products or services we sell. On testimonials and reviews, right? How do we look at something? Because for me, I am, as a consumer, I always look at reviews. How many stars has it got? Who's saying what about it? Have they got a good experience? How can you? I'm sure you've had experience of this. What things do we need to look into to spot fake reviews?
Well, they're getting less easy to spot because
Probably ChatGPT or AI.
there's a lot of
Does that
AI
help?
out there. Yes. But the truth is, look, I would always say, look at the bigger picture here. So when you're looking at review platforms or a business's reviews, whether it's Google My Business or TripAdvisor or whatever, there's lots of them out there. Always look at how many reviews there are for that business. Because if a business has been up and running for 10 years and they've only got 20 reviews, then that's not really saying much about that business. Whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, or whether they're fake or real, if they've only got 20 reviews and they've been open 10 years, there's something amiss there in terms of they're either not asking for reviews regularly. So there's the first red flag. They need to be asked. If you've got a review platform, ask for reviews religiously. Don't do it half-heartedly because it sends the wrong message. Look at the number of stars. Yes, that's a good benchmark. So if you're looking at TripAdvisor, a hotel, and they've got 200 reviews and it's a 4-star out of 5, that isn't so bad out of 200 reviews.
Yeah.
If they've got 5 reviews and they're all 5 stars, that's only 5 customers.
Okay. So even though it looks good, it might not tell the whole
you
story.
got to look how many, how long. So do a little bit of research. Look, you're always going to get the odd review where something went wrong. And what sometimes businesses say to me, oh, I don't want to go near review platforms for my business because somebody will put a fake review up and then I won't be able to get it down and it'll do
Maybe
me
a
damage.
competitor. That happens, doesn't
There's
it?
a little bit of that, competitors not playing nicely. And I say the same thing. Look, it needs to be authentic. If I see a business with 100 reviews and they're all 5 stars, there's something not right there. There are businesses where that can apply. Of course there are. But if you took certain sectors like hotels, restaurants, pubs, bars, whatever, there's always going to be the odd customer that's disgruntled or something that hasn't worked. That's fine. Don't fear a 4-star or a 3-star review on the scale of the bigger picture because that gives authenticity. So
there's a good chance when you got tens, if not hundreds of people who work for an organisation, something's going to go wrong
an employee
somewhere.
will be disgruntled and go on and give a bad review. You get those and people are realistic. You'll get a gut feel. You will get a gut feel when you're looking at review platforms. They're not everything neither, as important as I say they are. They're not everything. They're not the be all and end all. You do need them for social proof. It is really good in terms of driving traffic and SEO to your website because they link back to your website. So there's lots of positives, but on their own, it's not enough. You need the complete picture. You need a really good website. You need testimonial. You need to be asking your customers how they feel on a regular basis. You need to be using that feedback to drive your business strategically. So there's lots of things that make up the picture.
And if a business has maybe experienced a bad review, that could be maybe a 1-star Google review, or maybe they've had a pretty rubbish email from a customer, what sort of advice would you give to a business owner maybe taking on board that feedback, whether it's authentic feedback or constructive or just pure, just not nice? What sort of advice would you give to that person?
It's really important that you reach out to the person. Even if it's fake and it's a review, the best response is not to go to town publicly, is to just respond to it saying, we're sorry to hear about your bad experience. Please contact us on, and have a dedicated email address, not an email address that you would normally use, just one that you use for that, because you're putting it up publicly, and invite them to have a conversation with you. If they're fake, you're never going to hear from them again. If they're real, there's a chance they will come back to you and they'll appreciate the fact that you cared enough to want to talk to them. Because if somebody's telling you something's wrong, the worst thing you can do is ignore it. You've got to take on board the poor feedback as well as the good feedback when you're in business. You can't just focus on good feedback and say all the bad feedback is not true, because that's not realistic. Because the truth is every customer is slightly different, and whilst you may have tried your best for a particular customer, it may not have ticked all the boxes for them. So understanding why will help you as a business to be able to think about, okay, next time if we have a customer that sits in that situation, maybe we need to go about things differently.
Feedback is a gift. That's
It is a gift.
I've often heard. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yes, absolutely. But it's only a gift if you listen and you use it.
Very true. If you listen and you use it. Well, thanks. Thanks, voice of the customer. I got to get used to saying that.
Yeah.
No, that's some really good insight. Some great tips there for people who maybe have had bad feedback or negative feedback. And yeah, sometimes it's maybe worth putting on that lens or that perspective. Is this person, is it valuable feedback? Because sometimes you get things out there that may be trying to distract or hurt, isn't it? Just, from a competitor point of view, that does happen. I have seen that. It's a bit sad. I wouldn't dream of thinking of putting a bad review on a competitor's website or anything like that,
But it's not as regular as you think neither. It does happen. I'm not denying that. It does happen. But my view of the world is take it all as serious feedback. Yeah. Don't start unraveling. Is this one real? Is that one real? It doesn't matter. You're running a customer-facing organisation, then you have to consider how the customer feels and take their feedback on board, and then use it as best you can to give you a direction in your business.
Do you send review requests to your customers?
I absolutely do.
Religiously?
Religiously.
Well done.
Yes,
well
absolutely.
Done. What is next for Intersix? You've been in business now for 8 years. You've got a very good, healthy work-life balance. I'd like to think so.
I have, yes.
You have.
I no longer live in hotels and do 50,000 miles a year. My 50,000 miles a year has gone to about 10.
Oh, nice.
Which is great. But I still love driving, so that's an upside.
What's next for the business?
I think for us, the world's changing all the time, so constantly looking at ways in which we can help businesses understand their customers. We've got semi-automated feedback platforms now that help drive positive online reviews. Looking to evolve and looking to keep people real. I think there's a lot of AI out there now, and everybody's looking for that quick win and that flash, shiny new thing. There is definitely a place for AI in customer experience, but no business should be thinking that AI can completely replace people, because as human beings, we want to connect with people.
Absolutely. People buy from people.
They do. So what's next? It's very much keeping an eye on that whole technology piece and how it can be used in the right way to refine customer experience.
Absolutely. Oh, that's good. That's good stuff. Well, this podcast is all about stories, and I've gotten to hear some of your personal story today. I've learned a thing or two. I thought I knew you, but I've learned a lot of secrets today, Mel. The gardening centre retailer took garden leave from a gardening centre.
Gardening leave in the garden sector.
That's been a highlight for me. But yeah, this podcast is all about personal stories. I've gotten to hear your own as a farmer girl from Swansea. Whose story would you love to hear, Mel? I always ask that question to all our guests. If you had an opportunity to sit down here with somebody, and that could be fictional, somebody who's maybe inspired you, really influenced you on your journey, I'd love to know, Mel. Whose story would you really love to hear?
I don't know, because there's so many, great people out there. And I think as the decades pass, that people's influence changes. So, that's a hard one for me, because I think there's just so many people. I like to keep it close to home. So I like to know what, bit like you're doing now, actually, understand what the people I know, what are they doing, and how are they continually keeping themselves motivated and driven. And, there's lots of great people out there that are inspirational and can really stand in front of an audience and really fire them up. I admire anybody that can do that, because that's a tough gig. To fire people up and be a really good public speaker. So there's lots of people like that. But actually, for me, my motivation and admiration comes a bit closer to home, because it comes from people I know. It comes from people like you that are running your own business through thick, through thin, giving up maybe in the early days some of the stuff you didn't want to give up, but you're driven to run your own business. So I think it's about having a network around you, a support network. And I can't pick one person.
Oh, you're the first person in 26 episodes that has said nobody. But no,
it's not nobody.
Yeah,
there's loads.
There's loads. That's right.
There's loads.
Correct me.
So I can't pick one that I'd go, it's that one. I think lots of people influence. And look, I think if you'd asked me a different question, and that is, what has motivated me to get to this point in my life, I would go right back to that work ethic when I was a child. That was always it. You never ever thought of anything other than working hard to get to where you need to get to. And if there's a message out there, it's that one. For me. Work hard to get what you get. You don't get anything without working hard, in my book. I'm sorry. It's
Absolutely.
just the way it is.
No, it's something I was sharing earlier today with a colleague. If you work hard, you'll get rewarded. I'm a big believer in that. If you work hard in business and setting something up, it just doesn't make logical sense to me to work hard at something and not get anything out of it. So if you work hard, you'll be rewarded.
But you have to work smart as well.
Absolutely.
You have to know when you're done. You have to know when you're beaten. You have to know when you need to get back up and start punching again. It's all of those things. I think you still have to have people around you to guide, to focus. As we said earlier, with all the work ethic in the world, if I hadn't had that 30-year career, doing what I do today probably wouldn't be possible. So it's all the people I've met along the way, all the good bosses I had. I had a few not so good ones as well. But you learn from whoever it is you work with. I'm a great believer in that. You do. You start to mirror. So when you've had a good boss, you start to mirror their behaviour. That's how you learn. So I think there's lots of people that have inspired me along the way.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing those who have inspired you on your own business journey and in your retail industry as well. Fantastic to hear, where you've come from and what you've built over these years. And I'm really grateful for what you've supported me in running my business. The little things, tips you've shared with me over these years have really gone and helped. And it's helped me improve things in the business and hopefully given me some social proof to bring on some customers. So Mel, thank you for sharing that. If anyone wants to know more about what you do and what Insight 6 does, how can people best engage with you, Mel?
We've got a website, insight6.com. So you can go straight on there and you'll find me. And you'll find me on LinkedIn as well. Mel Evans, the voice of the customer.
The voice of the customer. Well, that's what you've heard and seen today. The voice of the customer. Mel, thank you so much for coming on. And we're really grateful. And I'm excited to hear where the next 8 years takes you in business.
Thank you, James. Thank you very much.
Diolch.